Earlier on this list, we covered a corny concerto from Warner Brothers, directed by the great Robert Clampett. I mentioned in that video that the man is arguably responsible for giving the Looney Tunes their comedic style. And now we've come to it. Porky in Wackyland was first released in 1938. Clearly parodying Alice in Wonderland, Porky makes an attempt to find the last dodo bird that lives in a dark corner of Africa known as Wackyland. What dangers await Porky in this mysterious country?
Boo.
I don't think even the makers of this cartoon knew. I think they were making it up as they went along. Nothing about this world makes sense. It's just pure doodling madness. The best way I can describe Wackyland is that it fits perfectly in line with the artwork of Salvador Dali, whom Clampett was obviously a fan of. And the dodo bird, or Yo-Yo the Dodo as he would be called, is the king of Wackyland. Everything he says and does is law. This is probably why he was never really used again in the Looney Tunes universe. I mean, Warner Brothers did recycle this cartoon in 1949, with Friz Freleng at the helm, and Paul Dini described Go-Go in Tiny Toons as Yo-Yo's son. But aside from the occasional cameo here and there, nothing else was really done with this character. Perhaps they made him a little too invincible and they just didn't know what to do with him anymore. Bugs Bunny was usually on top of things too, but he still showed signs of vulnerability now and again. There is not one moment in this cartoon where Yo-Yo isn't 2 steps ahead of Porky on everything. The Leon Schlesinger studio would often screen the new cartoons for the staff, and routinely ask them to write comments on what they thought about each one. They saw Porky in Wackyland as an impressive achievement, a game changer in many ways. But I think writer Michael Maltese summed it up best. Keep this up, and we'll all be candidates of Wackyland. How right he was. Before the idea of Porky in Wackyland was even conceived, Schlesinger Studios had strict guidelines in place on how animation would be done. In many ways, they were guidelines trying to follow in the giant shadow of Walt Disney. Literalism, cutesiness, realism, and so on. But some animators like Clampett and his former boss, Tex Avery, believed that animation could be so much more, and made an effort to push their ideas into their cartoons as much as they could. Animation historian Steve Schneider described Porky in Wackyland as Warner Brothers' Emancipation Proclamation. It was a freedom of expression against the restrictions that bound the staff at Schlesinger Studios, and as a result, created a style that was entirely their own. Even Clampett's old boss, Tex Avery, would reuse segments of the cartoon as well when he moved over to MGM. In many ways, Porky in Wackyland is the first real Looney Tunes short. The cartoon that would set the standard for the series moving forward into the Golden Age.